Welcome from Vienna, here from the Stalin monument, and I call to dismantle it. Dismantle it, transform it. It's a debate. Some people don't want to dismantle monuments, and there's a case for that. And I say, let's do it seriously, and let's, for example, transform this wonderful square in the square of freedom, or in the square for NATO, in the square for Allied victory. That would be possible. The best naming of the Schwarzenberg square. The Schwarzenberg square can stay Schwarzenberg, but this monument would be really perfect for it. And my proposal is very simple, Mr. Mayor. It's quite simple. Here, this monument might stay because there's a cultural value, and you can put here the Churchill monument, here the De Gaulle monument, and over there the Roosevelt monument. So it was for Allies, because the social democratic view of history that only the Soviet Union has liberated Austria is actually totally wrong, because you know that it was the Western Allies physically liberating Western Austria, and it was Patton's Third Army liberating the KZ Mauthausen and the Danube and the Enns, and then later only the deal was done to give them the Mühlviertel and also that area. So that's the fact. And I repeat, read the history. Without the Western support, Stalin would have been defeated in 41-42. It was the $1 trillion US support which has kept him in the fight and provided the mobility to reach Vienna, Budapest and Berlin. That's the historic facts. Read the books. Read the facts. And it was for Allied. So I don't understand, is it so complicated to put a Roosevelt, Churchill, De Gaulle monument here in Vienna? Then you don't have to dismantle it. Or dismantle it, and put it somewhere else, and make it the monument of Ukrainian freedom. But keeping it like this, just because it was always like that, it's a bit not good enough. We can also transform it into the NATO square. Actually, a very big NATO cross over there at Schwarzenberg place. That will be my dream. And one day, I promise, it will be there. But I'm actually here to celebrate the Kosovo National Day and to bring Austria into NATO, like Albania and Kosovo as well, and Ukraine, and of course Bosnia. And to warn again of the pending Serb aggression, as I warned from the pending Russian aggression, which we had to suffer. And of course, it's much better to deter aggression and then to live in peace. And therefore we need a strong military, and we need a strong NATO, and we need, of course, the military victory of Ukraine, and therefore they need tanks, and therefore we don't need tanks at the moment, because the Slovaks anyhow defend us, and the Hungarians to some extent, Orban maybe not, but anyhow the Ukrainians defend us, and so they were also liberating. It was the Ukrainian front who liberated our beautiful Austria from fascism in 1945. And Slava Ukraine should be also not just a little bit of money, but concrete tanks. Now we have the tanks in Austria. We order 225. Send them as they come from the production line. Send them to Ukraine. That's the only logic. The Pandur straight, every Pandur we have, every Leopard we have, every airplane we have, straight to Ukraine. And then as they come new in, they will be also sent. And that's the only reasonable policy Austria should pursue. Everything else is absolutely a disaster. And after the death of Navalny, now we had some statements of looking for investigation of the left, and the extreme right is anyhow gone into Russia's camp, and it's absolute disaster. And it all comes from neutrality, from the post-war myth. Why we have the disaster in Austria, this protectionism, this hate of America, this anti-Semitism, this protectionism, because Austria was explained after the Second World War. We were not guilty. Obviously we were guilty. Obviously then we had this neutrality deal with Russia, and then we stayed under this kind of, we are a little bit different than the Germans, we are the good guys, we are just not concerned by the rest of the world, and so we stayed into this kind of mythology of disaster, and this has led to us believing that we can be protectionist, xenophobe, anti-Semitic and anti-European and pro-Russian, and it's just a bridge to somewhere, to Moscow. And it was working some years, and we definitely don't have to continue here. The buck stops here now, right here and now, and it's the symbol for that. Neutrality must be disposed in the garbage bin of history. This building must be either massively transformed with the four allies, or dismantle completely. And also we must build monuments, of course for Churchill, of course for Roosevelt, of course for de Gaulle, of course a Ukraine Square, of course a Skanderbeg Square, and of course a Sobieski Square. And obviously Ukraine must be in NATO and in the EU. In the EU customs union, the border must be opened, the euro must be introduced. And it's exactly like we did it in Kosovo. We have to do it in Ukraine as well. And that's the only decent and reasonable way to do it. Good. I hope my little rant here and I will celebrate Kosovo independence. Now please recognize Kosovo, Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, Bosnia, Spain, Slovakia, and all the others who we fund with our taxpayer money, and they don't do what we say because they should, and it's a morally right thing. Yeah? We don't ask any indecent thing, but you get all the billions and you don't even follow us on the main fundamental foreign security policy. Shame Spain, shame Romania, shame Slovakia, you know, shame Cyprus and Bosnia for that. Yeah, of course it's Dodik who is doing it, the new Belarusian president in waiting. He will probably end up with Lukashenko in some disaster in some Russian ex-republic after the fall of Russia, which will inevitable come after the fall of Putin. Yes, let's pray for Navalny. He was brave to sacrifice himself. He is now the martyr for the end of Putin's regime, and it will also lead to the end of Russia, and that will be a much better world ahead. The next 30 years of globalization will be very successful, and let's us open up the European Union with an FTA to the USA, and of course to Mercosur, ASEAN, Africa, India and Australia, and let's get this done and not be dominated by the agriculture lobby. Yes, for a better, more open, free, strong, dynamic European economy based on the flat tax, on open labor market and on decent level of regulation and on concluded free trade agreements, and a big of energy independence by exploiting our own energy resources in coal, gas, steel, wind, and all the things we have in Europe, but also by importing from friends only and from our FTA partners, and to completely isolate and boycott Russian energy. This should be our policy. That's what I believe in, and that's what I fight for in Austria. Thanks a lot. More to come, and support Kosovo independence, and let's join NATO like Albania did it. And Albania and all the NATO allies like North Macedonia, Montenegro, Albania first in the EU as fast as we can, and Kosovo and Bosnia and Ukraine and Moldova and later Georgia, and one day also Serbia after the revolution towards the west. That's what I'm calling for, the Serbo-Maidan. And then it will be much better, obviously. Then also Serbia can recognize Kosovo, as I said, with Mr. Sandulovic here. And then we can also have lasting peace in the Balkans when all are in NATO, EU and the Euro, the OECD, the WTO and the OECD. And this is what should happen. And that's what I will campaign for now, the coming months, as Yes to Kosovo campaign, with Kosovo in all the institutions, so where they are still missing, from WTO, OECD, OSCE, UN, EU, NATO, everywhere, Council of Europe, which will happen now. And so things are moving forward. And then also we will do a Skanderbeg monument in Vienna, maybe here already at the Schwarzenberg remodeled square. Thanks a lot, and more to come here from Pax Europiana on this beautiful day where I'm going to celebrate the Kosovo independence in Vienna. Slava Ukraine, bravo Kosovo, and for united EU and NATO. And let me not forget, for the EU to join NATO, that is very important, for the free trade agreement with America, and for the return of the United Kingdom into the EU. Once we are in NATO as EU, we have a free trade agreement with the United States, and we are good and we are winning in Ukraine, obviously. Then the UK will come into the EU back together with Ukraine and the Balkans, and that will be a very strong, dynamic future for the European unification and the Europeans in general, and for the whole world. If you have stability in Europe and peace here, and if you defeat Russia, it will be much better for everybody in the world. A free world will be winning, as they always do. Free market democracies always win, and they win again this time, and we will definitely defeat the Russian-Chinese autocracy. Thanks a lot. Be optimistic. We will win. Bye.